This is your daily Facts Matter update, and I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. And now let's begin today's discussion by talking about Ms. Hillary Clinton, who has just issued an official response to John Durham's filing. Now, before we get into her actual statement, I just want to give you a brief recap of the allegations. In short, according to the special counsel John Durham, back in 2016, the Clinton campaign, alongside one of their lawyers as well as a sympathetic tech executive, they were spying on President Trump's internet traffic both before and after he was sworn into office as the President of the United States. And they were allegedly laundering this information over to the intelligence community as well as other media outlets in order to create the narrative that there was some kind of collusion going on behind the scenes between President Trump and the Trump campaign, as well as Russia, a Russian bank, and potentially the Russian government. Now, even though all these allegations have proven to be false, well, the narrative itself has stuck. There are still people in America who believe truly that Trump colluded with Russia. Regardless, though, those are the allegations in a nutshell. However, now we have an official response from Ms. Hillary Clinton. And to start with, just yesterday while she was speaking at the New York State Democratic Convention, she essentially attempted to brush off the allegations as a right-wing conspiracy. Take a listen.
And we can't get distracted, whether it's by the latest culture war nonsense or some new right-wing lie on Fox or Facebook. By the way, they've been coming after me again lately, in case you might have noticed. It's funny, the more trouble Trump gets into, the wilder the charges and conspiracy theories about me seem to get. Fox leads the charge with accusations against me, counting on their audience to fall for it again. And as an aside, they're getting awfully close to actual malice in their attacks. But as I said, don't get distracted.
Okay. So let's say we take her advice, and instead of getting distracted, we instead read the Durham filing for ourselves, and after doing so, we realize that some of the accusations, they cannot just be waved away as a Fox News conspiracy, because they are concrete and they are evidence-based. Well, have no fear, because Ms. Hillary Clinton, she posted a message on Twitter saying this, quote, "Trump and Fox are desperately spinning up a fake scandal to distract from his real ones. So it's a day that ends in Y. The more his misdeeds are exposed, the more they lie. For those interested in reality, here is a good debunking of their latest nonsense." And then below that statement is a link to a Vanity Fair article, which is titled, "You Will Never Believe It, but Hillary Clinton did not, in fact, spy on Trump's White House." And then the subhead of that particular article says, quote, "In less breaking news, Donald Trump remains a moron." And so you can sort of see right away where the author of that totally neutral article stands. Regardless, though, I did go through and I read the entire Vanity Fair article, which essentially serves now as Hillary Clinton's response. And the main point that the author in that article makes, besides several times reiterating how dumb Fox News and President Trump actually are, the main point of that article is that according to the lawyers of the tech executive, they were intercepting data from the White House, but it was not during Trump's term in office. According to them, according to the lawyers that were representing the tech executive, they were instead analyzing the data that was coming from the executive office during Barack Obama's presidency. Here's specifically what the lawyers told New York Times that was then quoted in that Vanity Fair article. Quote, "What Trump and some news outlets are saying is wrong. The cybersecurity researchers were investigating malware in the White House, not spying on the Trump campaign. And to our knowledge, all of the data they used was non-private DNS data from before Trump took office." Now, there are a few points to unpack in their statement. First of all, the term spying is just semantics, because if these cybersecurity researchers were in the system looking for malware, well then they of course at the very same time had access to all the data. And so whether they actually went into that system in order to quote unquote spy, which is by the way not what John Durham was saying in his filing anyway, they appear to be spinning that part a little bit, but regardless, the effect is the same, because those researchers had access to all the data, and it appears that they took that information and gave it to the Clinton lawyer, who then took it over to the FBI. And then secondly, the second point is that in terms of who was the president during the time that the DNS data was being gathered, well, that is not exactly clear. And we will have to get clarification from John Durham when he presents more information to the court. Because for one, if you noticed, what the lawyers actually said was that, quote, "To our knowledge, all the data that they used was non-private DNS data from before Trump took office." And so if you notice, they did not state it as a definitive fact. They just said that it's according to their knowledge. And then furthermore, let's look at what John Durham's filing actually said in this particular respect. Quote, "The government's evidence at trial will also establish that among the internet data that Tech Executive One and his associates exploited was DNS internet traffic pertaining to a particular healthcare provider, Trump Tower, Donald Trump's Central Park West apartment building, and the executive office of the President of the United States, otherwise known as the EOP. Tech Executive One's employer, which is referred to as Internet Company One, had come to access and maintain the dedicated servers for the executive office of the President as part of a sensitive arrangement whereby it provided DNS resolution services to the executive office of the President. Tech Executive One and his associates exploited this arrangement by mining the executive office of the President's DNS traffic and other data for the purpose of gathering derogatory information about Donald Trump. And then even beyond that, the Durham filing gives us a specific date for when this data was taken by the Clinton lawyer and presented to another intelligence agency. That date, just for your reference, was February 9th of 2017, a time when President Trump had already assumed office and was already the President of the United States. And then furthermore, during the meeting, when the Clinton lawyer presented this information to that second intelligence agency, well, he said that the data he was presenting showed that President Trump, as well as some of his associates, were using rare Russian cell phones in the White House. Here's specifically what the Durham filing said in this part. Quote, the indictment further details that on February 9th, 2017, the Clinton campaign lawyer provided an updated set of allegations, including the Russian Bank One data and additional allegations relating to Trump, to a second agency of the U.S. government, otherwise known as Agency 2. The government's evidence at trial will establish that these additional allegations relied in part on the purported DNS traffic that Tech Executive One and others had assembled pertaining to Trump Tower, Donald Trump's New York City apartment, the executive office of the President, and the aforementioned healthcare provider. The defendant further claimed that these lookups demonstrated that Trump and/or his associates were using supposedly rare Russian-made wireless phones in the vicinity of the White House and other locations. And so do you see what's happening here? The Durham documents, they allege that the tech executive collected this data and then handed it over to the Clinton campaign lawyer, who then took that data and presented it to the intelligence agency. And when he presented that data, he told the agency that it showed that Trump, as well as his associates, were using rare Russian cell phones at the White House. And yet, after this filing came to light, the lawyers for that tech executive, they are now saying that this whole data, it was mined not during the Trump presidency, but during the Obama presidency. Which then raises the question, if it was not mined during the Trump presidency, but was instead mined during the Obama presidency, well, how could they possibly make the allegation that Trump and his people were using Russian cell phones at the White House? I guess they will just have to explain that all in court. Furthermore, whether or not these tech executives were in fact spying on Trump during his term in office is not really the main issue at play here. The broader issue, which was not touched on in that either by Hillary Clinton's statement or in that Vanity Fair article, is the allegation by Durham that behind the scenes of the whole Russian bank, Donald Trump collusion narrative, there was a whole large web of actors, all ultimately connected to the Clinton campaign, pushing forward the false allegations. And not just pushing them forward organically either, but Hillary Clinton's lawyer was allegedly billing the Clinton campaign for the hours that he spent doing so. According to these documents, he was billing the Clinton campaign for the hours that he spent with the tech executive in order to push this whole narrative forward. Regardless, as you can see, all this Trump, Russia, Hillary spying stuff is so complicated, and to explain even a small portion of the facts takes about 10 full minutes, which is why I believe that it's so easy for people to just spin the facts or to just brush the entire thing off as a conspiracy theory. And then, of course, furthermore, you have the legacy media complex in this country, which is allowing the entire thing to happen by either not reporting on it or making fun of it. Like how Jimmy Kimmel told his viewers 2 nights ago that only people with, quote, soft oatmeal-like brains would believe the made-up Hillary Clinton spying case. That is just the reality that we're having to deal with when we report on stories like this. It's very similar to what Winston Churchill once famously said, quote, a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to get its pants on. Now, of course, to be clear, I'm not saying that either Hillary Clinton or this tech executive's lawyers are lying. That will, of course, ultimately have to be decided by the courts. However, to be frank, I am knee-deep in these documents, and I'm just providing you with the facts and letting you know which facts are in conflict with one another. Again, what will ultimately come of this case, we'll just have to wait and see. Until then, if you'd like to go deeper into these documents, all the documents and all the stories that we went through today, I'll throw all that into the description box below this video for you to check out. And all I ask in return is that you take a super quick moment to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And now, let's move on over and talk about the censorship that conservative Olympic athletes are beginning to experience. Sorry. What's this? Well, that's a great question, Roman, and it is today's sponsor, which is an awesome messaging and email service provider called Secure. And it's awesome if you're the type of person that actually cares about their privacy. Because, I mean, it's no big secret that these big tech companies are mining and remining our data all the time. In fact, in the year 2020, it was found that over 155 million Americans, likely including you and me, have suffered some form of data breach. And by the way, that's only what's publicly known. However, what's happened in the past, well, that can stay in the past because with Secure, your data and your messages can remain private. And that's because Secure has all of their data centers located over in Switzerland rather than in the US or in China. And the reason that's so important is that Switzerland has some of the strictest data privacy laws in the entire world, and they are not subject to the Intrusive Cloud Act. And if you want to know what the Cloud Act is, head on over to secure.com and watch their video on the homepage or on the video tutorials page, which is under their support section. Now, the thing that I personally love the most about the Secure app is the privacy aspect of it. They don't mine my data. They don't mine my phone number. They don't mine the phone numbers or data of my friends and family who I chat with. But best of all is that if your friends and family don't actually use the Secure app themselves, it doesn't matter. Because the way that it works is that when you use their Secure Send email technology, all of your emails and your messages route to Switzerland, and then the recipient can reply using their Secure Reply technology, and so everything remains private no matter what. And the same actually goes for their messaging app as well. And they're always coming up with new features. In fact, the most recent one they told me about, they sent me an email here, was that they're coming up with a new feature called Text to Chat by Invite. So they're an innovative company, and they really do care about your privacy. And so what they're doing doesn't work with your existing big tech email account. So check them out. You can head on over to secure.com. I'll throw the link into the description box below. And when you use promo code Roman, you can get 25% off. And the rates are not even that expensive to start with, by the way. It's only $5 for the messenger and $10 for the email and messenger combo. And they even offer a 7-day free trial. So head on over to their website. Again, it'll be linked in the description box below. Use promo code Roman to save some money. And now, Roman in the studio, back to you. And now let's move on over and talk about the censoring of conservative Olympic athletes. While I was down in Florida, I took the unique opportunity to speak with Mr. Anthony Watson, who is an Olympic skeleton racer, and he competed in the 2018 Winter Games. However, he said that once he publicly came out as a conservative individual, well, not only did his sponsors drop him, but he was also no longer able to train. Take a listen. Can you please introduce yourself and what you do?
My name is Anthony Watson, and I am an Olympic athlete, and I compete in the sport of skeleton.
Yeah, for people who don't know what that is, can you tell them a bit about what that is?
If you don't know what it is, if you haven't heard about it, it's when you lay on your stomach on a lunch tray looking like sled about 3 inches off the ice, going head first about 85 miles per hour. Or 130 kilometers.
And you've competed at the Olympic level before. Can you kind of run through that with us?
I have. So I competed with Team USA originally, and then transferred because I have dual citizenship, and then went to the Jamaican team, made Olympic history as the first ever skeleton athlete in Olympic history to compete in the sport at the 2018 Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, South Korea. So
before the interview, you were telling us that you had brush with cancel culture. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, definitely was cancel culture's, I think, first and only Olympian that's been canceled so far that I know of. So I basically got canceled in January for coming out as a Christian conservative Trump supporter, and was very anti-BLM, everything kind of everything Antifa and the left, and so paid a hefty price for it. So all the sponsors that I had, because a lot of people are under the assumption that Olympians get paid like Michael Phelps and Simone Biles, but people don't realize that those athletes had been competing for years before they even got the chance to get the kind of endorsements that they do. So people like myself are all self-funded, and we rely heavily on sponsorships and endorsements, but a lot of those things comes with a lot of red tape that you can't cross, just to not cross any blurred lines.
So can you kind of set the stage for us? How did you come out with your political beliefs, and then what happened right after that?
I've always been a conservative, so I was at the SAS event last year in December, and so literally I just posted a photo that I was here, and because it was associated with everything Trump at the time and the political climate, race war, everything was at its peak. So when people found out that I was a part of that, within a week after the event was over, I was canceled. I got a nasty email from a bunch of my sponsors saying, due to your dangerous beliefs, like your outspoken ideologies, it's just like at this point we just feel it best to just part ways and never, we don't want to work with you anymore. And then I got blacklisted, meaning any person in that kind of realm of like apparel, athletics, like hydration or working out, everyone was warned to stay away from me.
So that must have been pretty bad. How did your team step up? Did they defend you, or did they add to the flame?
Well, as far as like my country, I'm the only athlete that's competing. So my federation, they kind of keep out of American politics because I now represent the country of Puerto Rico, which is an American territory. But for the most part, every single person that I had, my coaches and my teammates, kind of felt the same in person, but they were more professional, as in they wanted to preserve and save their careers rather than take a risk by coming out as politically conservative. And so I basically paid the price for it and became the mark of everybody's hatred and all their, evil comments from athletes from other countries, as well as the U.S. and other places. So I'm basically, at that point kind of put a target on my back, but it was the right move to make, for my own convictions.
So you lost all the sponsors, but are you still able to compete?
I mean, you're able to compete as long as you can afford it. So when I lost all of my sponsors, that was how I was paying for my coaching. So that stopped. That's how I was paying for my rent and everything else. So that got really hard to the point where I literally was homeless for a little while. And so after everything was going on there, it made it really difficult. But it made me more ambitious, and it gave me more of a fire and a drive to get back to not only, prove the doubters wrong, but I want to go back and I want to win.
Are you planning to actually go back and compete in China?
Well, the next Olympics are in Beijing in February, so if I can get the crowd funding and the support behind me, I tell everybody, I was like, it takes a village to raise a kid, but it takes a nation to raise a champion, and so that's what I'm really hoping happens from here.
Maybe this is too sensitive for you to discuss, but do you have any opinions of the Olympics being held in China?
Not really. I mean, for a long time, the Olympics has been something that politics kind of stayed out of, but with the world we live in now, everyone has brought politics into it. But I know that there's a lot at stake here for a lot of people. A lot of people feel some type of way about China, especially with the pandemic and coronavirus starting in China, despite popular belief that's drowned out through internet censorship. And so for me, this is a lot riding on this for me, being someone that's able to go to where COVID took a lot from me and then made a lot of everybody else take everything from me. So to go back and not only just participate in Beijing, but to actually win in Beijing would mean the most to me.
Although, to be frank with you, given how foreign athletes are currently being treated in China, might not be a bad thing that he wound up not going this year. Regardless, let's switch gears a little bit, and I would like to direct your attention to something quite interesting. Over on EpochTV, there is a new episode of Truth Over News, which covers a story that it appears most other news outlets just missed. And that story has to do with recently released emails regarding Burisma, which is of course that Ukrainian energy company which Hunter Biden had a seat on the board of directors. Now, one of these emails, it confirmed that Burisma had paid a $7 million bribe to the Ukrainian prosecutor's office. And it also confirmed that Barack Obama's State Department knew about the bribe. And then secondly, in another email which was found on Hunter Biden's infamous laptop, it suggested that Hunter Biden was tasked by a top executive at this company to shut down the investigation into Burisma. And also, at the time that the $7 million bribe was paid, well, Hunter Biden was not only a Burisma board member, but he was also the head of Burisma's legal unit. And to top it all off, the author of that email, who was a State Department official named George Kent, well, he actually testified during President Trump's 2020 impeachment trial. However, he never mentioned the bombshell information that was contained in these emails, even though that information would have very likely cleared President Trump of all charges. Here's a trailer for their deep analysis in this particular case.
A newly released email confirms that Burisma, the Ukrainian firm who gave Joe Biden's son Hunter a lucrative position on its board, paid a $7 million bribe to the Ukrainian prosecutor's office. The email also confirms that Obama's State Department knew about the bribe. Another email found on Hunter's laptop in October 2020 suggested that Hunter was later tasked by a top Burisma executive to shut down an investigation into Burisma. At the time the bribe was paid, Hunter was not only a Burisma board member, he was the head of Burisma's legal unit. The author of the newly released email, State Department official George Kent, testified at President Trump's 2020 impeachment. Kent never mentioned the explosive information from his email, information that would have cleared Trump.
If you'd like to check out that full episode, as well as all the other phenomenal content over on EpochTV, I'll throw a link to it. It'll be right there at the very top of the description box. I hope you click on it. I hope you check it out. I hope you subscribe. And I hope that you join us on this journey of exploring the beautiful, beautiful world through honest journalism that is based in truth and tradition. Now, lastly, if you haven't already, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already, in order to get this type of honest news content delivered directly into your YouTube feed while YouTube still allows it. Also, consider hitting the notification button so you can actually be notified of any new videos as we release them. And lastly, if you happen to have a Telegram account, consider following us at FactsMatter_Roman. We'll publish the links to all of our videos there, so in case anything ever does happen here on YouTube, you can always find us on Telegram. And then until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed and stay free.